Tam. Bye-bye. Anybody need a red crayon? 14740. Yeah, PO box. 40. 10 PD.
So it's not on here at all
What's that?
on our budget?
It's included in the maintenance of general building and grounds.
Oh, I was just curious where it's
Sure. You are led, sir. Guess you got another minute.
All right, at 7 o'clock, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is our budget workshop and supplemental expenses this morning.
Well, I do apologize. We've been working on trying to get some updated figures. Unfortunately, from the last budget meeting, which we did revenues, we're going through a unfortunate deficit, but it's a work in progress. Basically, the biggest ticket item that we added in was putting in the Master Center, Town Center engineering design plans, which was taken out. It also included raising a significant amount of legal services as well. But it's something that we can either cut. There's not, other than you get to the conversations about salary and whatnot, and a few other items, there's really not a whole lot of to trim, but we can certainly trim here and there. Nothing can happen. But as far as I'm concerned, it's a work in progress. We're just going to hammer out figure out what exactly the directions we want to do.
What? Thoughts of your expenditure?
Sure, start at page 3. Let's go on timeline. Let's get started. Brian, what was the calculation you used for the district staff budget for salary, wages, and county council meetings?
We figured out an average of 2.5 meetings a month. I think it's
30. 30 meetings.
30 meetings. $700.
$725.
$745.
It is actually $725 for the second meeting of every month, but it's only $600 for the first meeting.
No, sir. The mayor always gets 125, and you all each always get 100.
Right, but I thought the mayor had the one meeting already included on the second.
No.
Mileage allowance for council.
One of the reasons I haven't used any, although VML this past fiscal year was actually in Alexandria, so that made it a little bit more, actually I think if I was in Arlington, but it was more drivable, whereas actually VML I believe is down Roanoke. There's a good chance we have a possibility of less the newly elected officials, so if they have an interest in attending
I didn't see any input from the
I just find it laughing when someone on council that's been mileage for a trip.
Well, there was-
That they're paid to be in, that is an elected position, and they're not an employee, they choose to go to conference.
But you're not being paid to go to the conference. So I suppose I would do mileage, just like I do for my job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for a real job. Yeah, but this is my choice to go to the VML, you're not being sent there.
It is a choice, correct, but I would still.
I just find it laughing. You either volunteer to serve in the town, or whatever.
Well, the line item if the line item hasn't gone out, it's there if they want to do it.
Is that the reason for the increased Brian in convention and education, Jim?
Yeah,
Because of the potential number of,
with regard to the potential number of new elected officials, they wanted to take the VML newly elected officials class.
So in 2013, I think we expended everything in the line items between Steve and I, and David went to newly elected, and then the large group of us that went to that annual, so.
I should submit mileage for my trip to Fairfield sometime. Sweet.
It's standard for almost all, but this isn't something that would.
What I would say is, well, most municipalities are paying elected officials a small stipend, but typically they would have a budget, travel budget factored into their budget. Mileage would be included into that travel budget.
Brian, can you make a note to send me our policy and procedure on mileage reimbursement? I'm sure. Man, I've done a lot of travel. Change that.
Can't do that retroactively, can you?
Sure, I can.
Can you?
Are we down on?
That's while mileage is submitted as retroactive after you take the trip.
Well, that's true, but how much
There you
time?
go. So
You gotta go from 2 years ago?
There's probably some limit, but 3, 6 months, something like that, is probably not out of the question. This is my office.
Fiscal year, I would think. Well, it's the fiscal year expense.
Yeah, well, it depends on the policy. Sometimes a policy will say that has to be a month for the universal policy, but at least expected to be this year.
Okay. Any thoughts about town council, otherwise we'll include the town administrator?
Question number one, why is Denise's factored into part-time? I thought we made her a full-time employee.
She is a full-time employee, but part of her position is over here in the administration, whereas the other portion of her salary put in museum as a curator. So she's paid as a full-time employee, full-time benefits, but we take part of it as the administrative assistant, part of it as the museum curator. What you'll see this year, actually, this amount actually came down. It's factored in with the proposed raises, but for the most part, this came down from her portion, whereas museum portion was only budgeted last year for 12,000, budgeted for 20. That's how it goes. But we'll get to that when we get to museum. But that's the reason why it's factored in.
We've received the actuary studies for the next 2 years for DRS for the employer contribution, and that has decreased. For FY 15 and 16, the employer portion of DRS is 606, down from 857.
Cigarette tax,
So is that number correct then, the 15 budget?
Yes.
cigarette tax administration. Is that right now? Just
We're going on 5%, or a little less than 5%. We didn't get an exact percentage. Sherry said she couldn't get an exact percentage on that. The 8.
We lower that because we expected revenue, cigarette tax to go down.
two lines above that, 55,000 for accounting services. Can you break that figure down for me, please?
Yeah, that would basically include a full year of having a part-time treasurer at their current rate. It also includes the routine maintenance for assistant and also QuickBooks. Whereas QuickBooks, we're going to be moving away from it from an accounting standpoint, we believe. We still would use it for payroll processing, so we still have to pay the annual membership to that.
You said annual membership.
Well, basically, it's the annual for the processing
Software?
Yeah, the software.
So it's the same price regardless if you use it for everything or just payroll?
I believe these two issues are separate. I don't process the payroll.
Yeah, and that's a small fee, but the payroll processing, QuickBooks does a good payroll processing for us, so that you can make it process work.
We are lowering the number of licenses we will need to be renewing this year. Whereas now we have five licenses that we're going to renew because we won't need to be in it as much for everyday accounting issues. So that's what transition business.
If it's just going to be payroll, why would you need multiple licenses?
I'd have to defer.
The license unfortunately expires in May. We need it.
I understand the concept of getting a license, but why would you need multiple licenses for license?
We need it through at least July or August because Sherry, me, and Jen are being done. So, unfortunately, it didn't expire in August, November.
So what I take it, those are named licenses, they cannot be shared.
Got a
No.
picture.
It's renewed in May.
One on each computer, so.
Yeah.
So again, can I get the breakdown of that $55,000 figure, please?
Yeah, treasurer, part-time treasurer at the current rate is roughly $5,000. The assist program was about
$4,000.
About $4,000, and that left the remaining $6,000 for that.
Well, we don't need 6,000 for
Yeah.
QuickBooks. It was payroll processing throughout the year, direct deposit fees, but there's some other, we left some buffer room in there for assist training. Additional assist training.
Wasn't me, right? That was not me. That was her.
For what? What are you pointing at me?
How many hours is that?
He's good at that, pointing fingers.
That is, that roughly equates into 15 hours a week. Comes out to actually 42. Knowing that the nature of the treasurer's position, sometimes it goes on. You could have 1 week where she has 20, 1 week where she has 20. The one thing about that position that is interesting is that that's straight up time. We don't pay any benefits for that as well.
Computer, internet, website.
So this is a new account. Everything is being put in different places. And so we decided to put everything having to do with IT in this account.
Well, wouldn't that be where assist and QuickBooks and payroll
No,
processing?
that's accounting. That's accounting. That's different than IT.
But computer, meaning computers, like physical, actual,
Yeah,
you take out a computer?
and a lot of support, IT support that we have and
Includes the-
software.
The web hosting,
Yeah.
the JT, the
So that's my question, does it include the actual physical, actual machine?
No.
Or just the servicing and the service?
servicing support for the meeting recording.
Can we label that as such? Computer, internet, website support or service?
Sure.
So this was on another line item somewhere.
Well, they were putting it like maintenance service contracts instead of IT support. It was going in different places.
Do we have support on the PCs themselves?
Yes, this is where we work with them.
So if the PC broke, this would cover that fixing, not buying a new one, obviously.
And then if it got to the point where to buy a new one, then of course that would be equipment.
What do you use to determine when you have to buy a new computer? Is it is it a life cycle of 3 or 5 years or?
Not when it crashes.
I mean, it's an easy sell for that. The general life cycle can go 4.5 years. Sometimes it's a bit stretching. I think 3 is a bit excessive for placing hardware, especially with the way the processors are going today. 3 goes to a standard point where warranties really become expired. So at that point, you can start replacing computers. Like with the desktop, you can probably invest in some parts to expand it another year or so. Laptops is a different matter. Obviously, if you drop a screen, it's broken. But as far as
Yeah, we have a tech support company that handles all that for the staff, and they provide the analysis of when the machine needs to be repaired or replaced based on exactly what you're on.
so it's a full service contract that does go over just laptops and monitors and everything else.
He also covers our server, our file server, file servers and questions. And he does,
Monitors the offsite.
yeah, he's monitoring the offsite backup and also does remote assistance. Yeah, remote assistance. And that's where all of these have been located. What was the name that you suggested that again? Okay.
Support and services added to the end of it. Computer, internet, and website support and services.
Because we have telecommunications. That would be all the phone bills.
That would be proposed phone issue, so.
It also, that cost is also included for account remote phones as well. That's the no, just the town hall.
Well, what's the breakdown from our actual phone bills compared to the proposed town issued cell phone?
The proposed town issue center for the cell phones would basically at the time be part of a group plan issuing 2 administratively, which would roughly come out to about anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200 a year. Yeah. And that's our portion. Now, one of the things we can, that's annually, that roughly breaks down to about 120 for the administrative side of things. Based
And
off,
we need those what?
I'm sorry.
And we would need those what?
Well, I think this, a lot of it depends on what you all think. I mean, if you want the access to your staff and everything as opposed to conducting town business on personal cell phones, I think that's an important thing. The other thing is anything that's done on a personal cell phone is foilable, which then you're putting your staff members in with that predicament, thinking if you avoid from it. I mean, if you don't need the access, you want accessible 24/7. That's a policy decision.
None of you are paid to be accessible 24/7. The only 2 people we have for that are Fred and Jim. Well, right now, Jeff.
Well, Brian's salary doesn't
Yeah.
need to 24/7. He's not expected to be, no, it's not exactly. There's nothing that 9 times out of 10 that would need Brian for on Sunday.
But I would say,
He's the chief of police.
just a case in point. So, like, for example, Friday, everything that was going on, that had to be handled when it was off hours. If I wasn't getting my email or anything like that on my personal stuff, I would have handled that stuff. Now, I feel obligated. I'll just tell you, from my standpoint, when I take it, I feel obligated. I think that's part of your town manager's job. I think a lot of this also came from, I think there's a little bit of misunderstanding. This is actually comes a lot from also from Marshawn, who, if he didn't answer from his personal cell phone or do work for the town on his personal cell phone, the response time to clients and people who are in the process of developing within the town wouldn't be responded to as quickly. I mean, we do provide voicemail and email and everything to that effect, but I know Marshall has had lots of time on his own personal time and on his own personal cell phone. It's one of those things that's more just, we look at, I think, from a liability standpoint. I understand both sides. There's pros and there's cons. I'm not going to lie. What I can tell you is I did research and did look around. This is not the first jurisdiction that I ever think about issuing town cell phones. I think the other thing is, I think there's always room for compromise. From the administrative level, we're looking at two. From a PD level, maybe not issue them to every employee, rather we save costs and use it as a trial. Maybe assign one to your chief and have two that on-duty officers can log in and log off. That way they don't feel the need to have to use their, or not log on, log off, but log in and log out. When they're on duty, they can check out a phone and they have a phone that's downloaded.
Just so you know, we still pay a bill for a cell phone for this month. There is our requirement.
That's great.
And I was under the impression whichever officer was on duty when you don't know what's not working is supposed to happen.
As of right now, no, that's not how it is.
Okay, where is the cell phone that she did the people by the time she got?
On the website.
Did it stay there when she's not there?
Is it reliable? I just can't. It's kind of. Yeah, it's a pay ad. It's a pay as you go phone. So let's go around the table. Important or not important? Steve? I'm sort of split in the middle of that. I'm not real important about it, but at the same time, there could be a couple of members of the town that might be good to have. Mr. Kenway?
I don't know. I'd be leaning towards the police department.
All or just a couple?
Well, give me one base, and chief would have to have one.
I see the importance of the PD having one for whoever the officer on duty is to be able to roll over, when Donna's not getting into the phone. But as for the other stuff, I just don't think that we're in a position where they really need to come as a option. So.
Not necessary for anybody. We've already got a cell phone that needs to be upgraded and do a more quality phone, a more reliable phone, so be it. But last I had heard, it was supposed to be used in Atlanta, which I thought was only used was down right there. You guys taking the phone, you had it, you can't find it.
Straight right. That's the question. So obviously that's not the case. I remember when we first moved in, Haymarket, that's the way it used to be. And right, when I first came in, that's how it was as well. When I understood that one straight. Can you just tell me how important it is when you're out on the street? How many times do you have to make a phone call to DOC or to a complainant that you have to use your cell phone, or that you have to then travel back to the station? Right. There's so many different varieties of times as why we would utilize cell phones in the police department. And I think part of the reason maybe why Brian separated the two is that obviously the town hall staff would utilize cell phones a lot differently than the police department would utilize cell phones. To answer your question directly, sir, it's very hard to say, 10 times a shift I've used a phone call, I've used a phone or never. It really depends. But we do utilize our private cell phones to call into Prince William County. Basically, what we're doing a lot of now is we call into Prince William, have them transfer us, block the call number, so that if I'm calling a suspect or a subject that, quite frankly, I don't want to have my cell phone number, they go through the process of blocking it. The downside of that is I can't leave that subject the telephone number to call me back. He has to either call into Prince William County and get a message, or I have to go up to the office and say, okay, I'll be at the office, call me here, and I'll wait for you there. But yes, we do utilize cell phones multiple times throughout a shift, let alone a tour. So.
I think we should consider it for both departments. look into it further. I know you can piggyback on larger jurisdictions to get the price down. Like he just said, it's important they use it all the time. I don't think the town officials will be using it as much as the police department would, but it definitely, I think we should look into it. I agree with that, especially with everything that's happened over the past few days, being the obvious point of needing to be in contact and him having to use, with Brian and Marshall not using their personal cell phones on a very frequent basis to do town business. It definitely should be looked into. Yes, do I think there can be a cheaper alternative? Sure. But the FOIA part of it is a big kicker.
Wish I could ask you, maybe so, Mr. Schaefer, your use and ability to communicate after hours or...
First of all, I'm sorry I'm late. I was at
That's right. We're talking about
a commission hearing.
cell phone use and possibly either there's select town staff that have our use device.
Brian and talked to me and approached me about this. I think probably 60% of my time is spent on the phone responding to customer service. With my job at Loudoun County, it's not appropriate for me to use my desk phone at my cubicle to make business phone calls for the town. So the majority of the time, if I return phone calls either during lunch or majority of the time I'm talking on my way back and forth to Leesburg, wirelessly, of course, or Bluetooth, of course. And so for me to be able to respond to requests for information during the day, also email. I respond quite frequently during the day via email to requests for information. If we're coordinating a packet, I'm having to work directly either with Sherry or with Jennifer. It's helpful to be able to pick up the phone and call them directly and be able to do that and not have to use my resources at Loudoun County. So it would be a benefit to me. In terms of FOIA, it is helpful to have if I have to submit FOIA. Not that I'm calling numbers that are not get me in trouble with my better half, but that was meant to be a joke. Is that I need to be able to account for those. I know wouldn't be the case if it's a town-issued phone, but practical purposes, when I go to file my taxes, they'd ask, do you use your cell phone for work? And I said, well, yes, I do. They said, well, can you separate those calls that are work and some of those calls are personal? I said, no, I don't have the ability to do that, so we can't write it off. Obviously, with a town-issued phone, I would not be able to do that. So it would be very helpful to me to be able to have that service.
Let's keep going on.
I don't think I know enough about the jobs and the process, and I'd have to get a little bit more acquainted with the function of what they do to better understand whether, in fact, it's a compelling argument or not. But for the time being, it might make sense to have it there until you make a decision on it.
I think it makes sense for the police department to have it. As far as the town, again, back and forth with Brian, I'm still 50-50 on that. Like, looking at the overall cost, it's at about $120 a month for both phones.
And it costs $50. If you go last month, we packaged it out to administratively and outfit all 7 of the people.
So we're actually looking at 9 physical phones.
Yeah. And I don't want to cut off.
Not the 3,800, you just mean that, between us and the police.
Right, and the only reason it was split is basically because administrative would take care of every cost. The only thing I was going to say is basically in working with Verizon, Sprint, and AT&T actually negotiated a contract with Fairfax County. There seems to have been a little bit of confusion. This would be our plan. It's just when we say we ride on a contract, basically what you mean is all of their conditions that they work at in their contract, we'd be able to receive the same conditions. And so that's basically all we mean by riding on a contract. We're not sharing a plan with Fairfax County. We have our own contract.
Right.
So the only other question I have to that is, say if the phone were to get lost or damaged, is there an insurance plan tied into that AT&T pool, or is there a backup to spend additional funds to replace the phone? I know most smartphones these days are between $300 to $800 $800 depending on what model you get.
I think it would be a matter of setting correct policies. I think if an individual loses their phone or that will shoot you from the town, they're going to have to replace that phone.
And that's factored into the budget as well, or
It wouldn't be factored into the budget. That would be something.
Typically, you have to, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean,
Typically, the insurance on it's about $10 a month or so.
something like that.
AT&T does about $6.99 a month.
Yeah, something like that. If they want to.
All right. As we were talking about this, I was reminded years ago, my company used to reimburse their employees for using their personal cell phones for their business, just a flat rate. It could be $20, $25 a month if that employee used it enough. And that could be something else to consider to give an option. If you really need a cell phone, well, maybe we provide you one, or maybe you prefer just having one phone on you and not carrying two. And you don't mind the FOIA potential or anything, and that could save us money too, yet give the employee some small incentive.
Now,
Just another thought.
Now, when your company used to offer that, that was also when a lot of people, their billing plans were based per minute. Most people have unlimited, don't even use all their minutes every month. They have unlimited data and unlimited. So,
Some people do, but a lot of people don't.
I don't have unlimited data. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't have my email.
AT&T, the plan I have, the quote unlimited is like 2 gig, and I've never used all 2 gig in a month.
If you see the bill, they bill their primary account, and all the sub accounts get billed between $10 and $30. So
The only thing I was going to say is, off what Steve said, that's also an accepted practice as well. A lot of most jurisdictions that I checked with, kind of researching this, most are issuing their own phones. They had a situation where they did do some stipends for some employees. If you look at like ICMA and go a little larger net, if you will find that larger jurisdictions, whereas they may issue into like department heads and stuff and such, they do stipends for the remainder of the staff if they feel that it's very need. So,
All right. Another option is, depends on the need in that, and policies that would still have to be written to do anything.
Brian, what was the breakdown of how much of that telecommunications line, how much was something like that?
for administrative staff, I believe was, you look at the 2,600, the factor from last year is basically the $1,200 this year.
And how many phones?
That was for two, but that was me factoring in, not saying which plan we would go with. That's just kind of like the big round number. That's like not the highest, not the lowest.
And that's also factored in with the 7 you had for the police department, correct?
The police department line item actually included their portion of it.
No, I meant the approximate 1,200 is if there are also the other 7. It's not 1,200 for those two, even if we say no to the other 7. We're making additional costs.
No, the 1,200 would factor in just the two administrative ones, and then when we go to the PD.
If we only bought one phone,
Oh, I got you.
would it be $600 a year, as opposed to we have to buy 9 phones to get
I got
$600 a
you.
year?
As far as I know, it would be the $600.
If we're writing
It's
on
a
a
month.
contract,
Yeah.
it's probably
Yeah, it's just flat. That's how much. The plan that they negotiated, which was actually kind of actually includes unlimited data and unlimited text and unlimited cost. The thing about it is also you can also take it down. Data is what's costing the most in any cell phone plans anymore. So if you didn't want data, other than that, it kind of prohibits receiving emails or anything like that. But you also have the ability to block that.
I would recommend let's leave it in for now and see where we go.
My question is, why only 2?
Because in polling staff, I mean, the staff are trying to identify the need. I think the need, I don't have any questions. I asked Holly. Holly said that it wasn't. I could be wrong looking at Jen and thinking, sure, like, I don't think we agree because they're in the office more than they do.
I have unlimited.
Yeah. And they're in the office more than they're.
You're not worried about FOIA?
Not very long.
You're good.
I try.
So that's the reason why we only factor 2 for the administration.
What was Holly's reason?
Holly, I thought Holly would probably benefit from one, but she just decided, she said she didn't think her call volume was significant enough to implement.
I will tell you this, Marchand's cell phone number is on his business card, so that's always kind of, that's how we communicate with Marchand. I mean, we do email too, but clearly you can get that on your phone also.
All right, moving on.
Somebody define the miscellaneous, what that makes, what's that for? 1,500?
As always, it basically covers any incidental services. It's one of those ones that can come down throughout the course of the year. How did you say?
What was the expenditure for the 536?
Oh,
Actually, I think a lot of that was audit entries. That was
That was
right. It was sort of a paper.
It's a clearinghouse account.
Yeah. Something there was no place to clear. Hopefully not.
Because this was this year.
Right. And a lot of that was some entries I made too. I just came in and cleaned it up and you have to put it somewhere.
I just recommend removing that.
Let's just take it out.
Or zero it out if you don't want to remove it.
I don't remember how to get it.
Eliminate the line item.
Yep.
You said zero it out, but not eliminate?
I think you use them.
Eliminate.
What do we say? The miscellaneous was on the better categorize it.
Yeah, we send you the budget.
So leave it on that budget.
I guess we'll just take it out. If something like that happens, just put it in. I'm actually not expecting this one.
Any miscellaneous would have to be like, audit stuff would be, probably come out of an accounting service or a,
We have an audit.
right. And,
Well, this wasn't paying on an audit or anything. This was just writing off certain things.
Really old prior year.
And if for some reason we have to do it again, well, it was unbudgeted item that goes negative.
yeah, why did office supplies jump almost 1,000?
We actually, it was moving around some. We actually moved our kind of included the water pool system service and the office supplies, which is basically that additional cost.
And some of the IT, and QuickBooks subscriptions were in here, and really that wasn't in place of that. So basically, things went refunded. So we thought they should be kind of cleaned up.
And the dues are professional dues?
Yeah, the books, dues, and subscriptions also including professional dues. Professional memberships. For me, being part of the ICMA, for Jen and Sherry being part of the Virginia Parks Association. For Holly.
Is that based upon our current rate?
No, you took the rate, it actually goes up, if the balloon's over 100,000, we're hoping.
And that's what I wanted to hear, is we're hoping next year will be less.
The goal is to
We'll
be
using
less, but I think I would really correctly say that Jay was exactly the money that at our last meeting, that we need to look at the legal services for the standpoint that you gotta be realistic. I mean, I think the average was roughly coming in somewhere just under, I think it was like 8,000 roughly.
It's 96.
Yeah, that's it.
Currently, we don't obviously have any cost and procedure for the next 6,000. Who has the village problem to all council members?
One of all clerks. What?
The building.
As of right now,
He said it was coming in at $2,000.
it's a little over.
So that's why I say 8,000.
Yeah. 267. So it's like 101. Now, I'm sorry.
The question was, who has the ability to talk to you?
As of right now, you pretty much
Unlimited.
It's unlimited. And that's something that you have to identify. I think council members should be allowed to talk to legal if they want, but they're just setting a set of parameters.
All staff, clerks.
I think it always depends. I mean, Marshall has to have the ability to speak to the attorney with regard to land development, especially when you're in regard to properties. Because a lot of times he's that first point. Sherry and Jen have to have the ability because if Jen's unavailable, Sherry has to have that same ability. I mean, there's just different things that come up. We do try to minimize that. I think as we've gone through a year of working with our attorneys, I think there's ways we can improve upon setting those out.
Committees.
Planning Commission, the chair of the Planning Commission. Or the, obviously, the liaison with council member.
But then ARB, no.
ARB would have rights. We have legal rights.
Typically, that would go through the
Or the council liaison.
I guess my question would be, what are the controls on that?
It sounds like it's under control.
That's helpful. In terms of the planning issues, obviously you hire me to interpret the ordinances, and more often than not, I issue permits. I review applications against the ordinances. Typically, what I need Martin's support is if the BLA, I needed to coordinate with him with the boundary line adjustment for Pace. The rezoning with the proffers, you would generally want legal review of the proffers that you're accepting. More recently was the historic district, having him review the final language and how we've advertised that. Typically, I write and draft the ads, and if there's a question I have about the ad, I'll have him give a cursory review. So in terms of what I deal with, it's very infrequent. It's more when I need typically a legal interpretation, but it's not the majority of my work does not require his oversight or input. It's usually specific. Now, moving forward, we do have some applications that are coming up, sheets that's coming in, which will probably, there's zoning text amendments and other elements that we may need to look at. There are some zoning enforcement issues that I'm getting ready to address that may require some attention by the town attorney. And those are non-recoverable costs. That becomes an enforcement issue that the town will bear. So you may see a little bit of a spike either this fiscal year or in the next fiscal year dealing with those issues. Blight, illegal uses, signage, those are the types of topics I anticipate having to deal with over the next 6 to 8 months. So
I guess we keep the
Well, the actual number comes out to like 101, 600, give or take. You feel more comfortable with that?
100K looks good to me.
I'd be willing to wager it's 120 this year.
Right. I would agree. I wouldn't take that.
Something happened in the area, so that's one of these obviously understanding the revenue. I'm not asking anything about that. So we call off, and that it's always
Right.
We did that in the past. Our Jen,
What's that?
audited a restaurant for the guys overseas.
Yeah, we've audited several businesses. We did a huge audit in 2011.
James, comes to mind more too.
Yeah, we did a big audit of a lot of people. But, yeah, there's just some legal questions the treasurer will always have over that.
But these things, like share, we usually jump off the page, I mean, or it looks like,
For me contacting?
no, well, just, because you get the receivables. For these receipts. If we notice like a trend or something like that.
Oh, it's just so obvious that the restaurant, they make 10,000 a month, and then it's their money to last month. It's just stuff that doesn't.
Yeah. I see some of the way
There's a lot of steps we could take with the state, though. And then there's a lot of resources with DNL that they go too. Like HR stuff, I'll look at P&L first, most of the time. They can kind of,
So we'll probably just keep the 100 or?
I think you need to up it. I think you're going to find that the 67 through this course of February is actually going to wind up annualized out higher than what will wind up in this fiscal year.
I'd rather do more, be safe than sorry, rather than have to, at the end of the year, make budget amendments and drop some other things to make sure you can cover it.
And I also see a lot of FOIA requests coming through the next council, starting in July. It's probably going to need some legal interpretation as far as what is submitted, not submitted. Like I said, I think we're going to come over way over 101 for this year. I think that there's some things coming out of the pipe that people are having to open their eyeballs to in the next couple of months or so.
Why don't you share?
I'd be happy to share. I don't think we go to closed session during the work session. There's eyes here that don't need to hear what I have to say. Eyes here that don't need to hear. There's ears here that don't need to hear.
You just project.
I project that there's going to be something that hits the fan between now and the end of this fiscal year. Our legal fees are going to have a little problem. And therefore, I think that that's going to continue into fiscal year 2015. I think that you're going to find yourself asking a lot. I think that we have the potential to have a brand new council on board, 100% brand new, I believe. It's possible. And I think that's going to cause litany of questions that have to be answered. People that are going to answer those questions are Brian and staff and consulting people. I think 100 is way under. I would bump it up to at least 120 based on how Marvin and his firm built. I think that you're going to have, quite honestly, I think you're going to have some challenges to some citations that have been issued. I think you're going to have some issues there, and I think Chris Midler's going to be increasing her bill for some of those issues that she's going to have to defend and fight against. So, like I said, I think 101 this year is going to be an understatement. I think going up to at least 120 in legal services is probably wise.
Okay, so before we go switch this on from the motions, we just can't remove the thoughts.
I don't like the figure at all at 100, but I agree. I think it probably should be up based on what could potentially be happening.
We don't have to like the number, we just have to put a real number in.
Right.
It's not about liking the number. It's just about the number.
Right. It's just about reality.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You can always come under next year, so you'd rather be
I'd rather be safe than,
yeah.
I'd rather be under and overfunded than underfunded and go over budget. Because if you start going over budget, you screw things up. If you wind up going under budget, then this time next year, when you realize that you're under budget, council can say, we can pull from this line item and fund this, something that was on the wish list that we didn't need to fund.
Right.
But I'd much rather be overfunded and underutilized than vice versa. Yeah, I agree with Rule 1.
you want to change?
Oh, I did double check. There is no riser contract, by the way.
Thank you.
Services, police department. Salary ranges were the same kind of assumption.
It's how it's factored in, but honestly, when it comes down to a policy decision, we did double check both administrator and for the PD, because that is the colors that we're on.
that
Oh,
number
because
was,
the old
Yeah.
building was a lot smaller.
correct.
Yeah, correct.
Is the computer internet website support and services the same thing y'all did on the last for town admin?
Yes.
So that's all support services.
Yes.
Is that chunking some things from other line items back into this line item just to make it all nice and neat again, right? Is that why it was increased by $1,800? Or is that
This
just a
one
better,
wasn't so bad. Let me see what that was.
or is that just a better annualized number?
We based it off the average of 400. Is what it's coming in. This is like covering the
Got it.
And I don't think that we had factored in ever monitoring of their offsite backup, which needs to be monitored as well.
We can definitely change the telecommunications if we're only going to do one phone, not 7. And if it's at 600 a phone, that would give us a number of 5,300, not 9,000.
I would say at least with 2, one for the chief and then one for the staff. Also,
Yeah.
on duty rather than just one.
How many given kind of how many do you all have out on patrol? Just one?
And it's
That's
extra
number.
money.
Sometimes you get two.
Yeah, typically there's one out on patrol at a time.
What about during the day when there's typically an officer and a supervisor or supervisor and a regular personnel?
The supervisors typically sit in the office.
Depending on which day it is and the scenarios, yes, we'll have, we've been trying to do it to where we have at least one in patrol that's out and about.
So do you want to go with a 2 number or a 1 number? You can go 5,300 or 5,900.
2 number, I believe.
So 5,900.
5,900.
That's with the factor of 600 apiece.
And what I can do is I can get more hardcore about the estimates. Like I said, I kind of hit the hot middle. I went for the middle. I think they, through AT&T, I'll follow this one a little bit more and actually get hard numbers. So,
4,300 of that number is just for the line.
yeah,
Right.
the
In the
47.
office.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there any way, what do we have? We have 2 phone lines, just so we have already 2. And how many and that's the 3 and for the police department?
You guys have
I think we've got,
3, 4,
I think we've had at least 4.
Yeah, I think so.
4 plus the 5?
4 plus a 5, I think.
Oh, no, I was including the fax in that pool. Because our phone, well, my desk phone goes to line 3 and then we have the fax line. So, I was saying just 4.
Well, that's not good.
Did it?
Yeah, I think that's my line 3 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I think what we have.
Okay, all right. Just see if there's any way of shaping something there.
Is it ranked in all PDX, or is it all voice-based?
For the phone system, couldn't tell you. I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's digital or not.
We tried with Comcast, and Comcast never decided to work, so we went back to Verizon, and those should, I believe those are just POTS lines, I know telephone line, and then it comes into our PBX, that then, I think it's digital inside the building, but it's POTS on the outside, I believe. Okay.
Brian, have you made any contact with board supervisors in relation to the NBC maintenance contract?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna try to set up a meeting now with Supervisor Cameron, and also I'm gonna reach out to Chief Hudson as well, talk to him about the possibility of doing this. We found some interesting things in the MOU, right? trying to ensure the MOU is still valid, which also, which makes us wonder, if anything, it puts us at the point that we should be able to negotiate the new MOU. It's down to much worse. But, from the standpoint of the MOU is invalid, and they reference that and say this is what we're going to base your charges off of, then that has no basis for charges because it was based on the original equipment that they provided us. So, long short of some reaching out to the county, I'm hoping we can.
But you know what the argument to the county is as far as why they should support that bill for us.
Well, basically, they in a lot of cases, when they go out to their MDCs, they go through grant programs, fed grant programs themselves. They're including us into the coverage area, and which basically, essentially, like a better way of saying it, kind of pads and numbers. They provide service to the town as well. So there's no reason why, since town residents are county residents, why we should be able to be in their system as well. Because we're providing the same service they provide. So that would be my understanding. But I'd be open to enlighten.
It has to do with terrorism funding and the grant studies that the county gets that they're supposed to share with local municipalities. Right. Well, that's not what you said.
Well,
I know it's right. That's why they're supposed to take care of that portion. That's why they have agreed in the past to handle that portion. Because when it's brought to light that they receive X number of funds, not share Y number of funds from the county town, they were told no. And that's why they pick up the bill for us. So we should not be paying this bill, period. Unless the county stops getting federal funds from Homeland Security. Would you like me to talk to Mr. Cameron? Well, I'll talk to Wally. Wally would be easier for me to talk to.
Either way,
You talk to Pete, I'll talk to Wally.
Next one down here. And property equipment repair. I assume there's probably a copy or something like that.
they have, but it's not.
Mileage allowance was my understanding that typically the officers would take the town issue car from their training.
Correct. The only Donna would not be included in that. So 250 would be enrolled.
Is Donna not eligible as a police department employee to drive trailblazer? I knew there were some limited usages given a certain time period and having elapsed, but I think we talked about that Tuesday night, and that time period is probably elapsed if we have a vehicle that's unmarked as such. I don't see why she had to go somewhere for mileage, because that's a necessity to drill with it.
That just comes down to legality issue. She can be operating a vehicle that's equipped with emergency equipment to include the audible siren, air horn. The vehicle.
I don't think operating a vehicle that's equipped with that is necessarily a violation. If she decides to use it properly, it would be a violation, which I would hope that given who she was, or she would choose not to do so.
Absolutely.
I don't think driving a vehicle that's equipped with that is a violation, provided you're not utilizing it.
So mileage.
You know more about the motor vehicle but
Well, would you be comfortable driving around?
I think she's used the Chiefs quite a few times.
she's driven, I've seen her driving the squad car, so that's all right. I just think they're going to it much, but I don't see why there would be a reason to have it.
With zero is kind of true.
Yeah, obviously she has never, apparently she's never seen a mileage anyway. It sounded like you argued earlier this week, last week, when you told me that you increased her advertising budget when she had spent zero, because she, quote, didn't know she had an advertising budget. She put the budget together with the chief last year. She knew she had an advertising budget.
She hadn't been submitting her mileage, but I know she has.
She's a good job.
So what's the chance of a
She did that
officer that
for
needs to go to the main
It's like from since the beginning of the year.
so having 250 there just in case.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't, like I said, it's a nominal amount. I'm just curious as to why they're driving a personal vehicle when we have 27 fleet vehicles sitting back there.
Technology, prevention, education, miscellaneous discretionary.
necessarily need to use that, those
I think
funds.
he's used it before on candy for Halloween when he planned stuff out, for sometimes national Halloween.
That's how many other additions. Don does a pretty good job of securing that stuff as far as donations, and I know the town staff is on that.
I know he's used it in the past for like.
Coffee for the officers on duty on
Well,
events. Sometimes there's.
And also, there was a desk.
Yeah, or also flowers.
A desk, flowers, hospital, thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're reducing it from 1,500 to 1,000 since that has been used. I believe the chief gave some
Yeah, I believe it.
discretionary funds.
Subscription, office supplies.
What do you guys categorize into repair and maintenance supplies? Since you haven't spent any money this year.
We should have taken that out.
Because you have repair and maintenance services up top that you're eliminating on it.
Yeah.
You're taking that out.
Yes, please.
Supplies. Uniform. That's where we have a team uniform.
And
So is that only for the chief or is that?
everyone.
Oh,
Have to know.
Is that coming down because of our actuals?
Based on the
How would you get a contract for that, right? For the paying, the full rate, everybody else does. Everything. As far as we know.
129, sure.
So if everyone needs to see what I'm counting or you guys should just use whatever department you want to do it.
No, if we're utilizing the dry cleaning service that we have to pay for out of pocket, yes, we use the one down here at A1.
I'm finding out it was like the car washes and stuff like that.
It's the vehicle, power, equipment supply.
Yeah, we should have maintenance.
It used to be called vehicle maintenance. Like this stagnant vehicle and equipment.
Why the maintenance?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, 155.
Fire rescue contributions out of the government entities, that's typically done when we receive proffers, or expecting proffers this year.
Jay, that's the ATL funds from the front of fire, and that's VA fire.
The ATL funds?
Yeah, these are localities.
To answer your question, that we are expecting proffers probably this fall.
We do not have a budget line item for property this year. We can certainly.
Yeah, we're certainly going to need to add that in revenue first.
We have no knowledge of any properties coming in.
I'm sorry, Sherwood Forest, they're in the hopper right now. Their increase in density would warrant
You
profit.
mean Robinson's Ferry?
I'm sorry, thank you, Robinson's Ferry.
Yeah, but there's no numbers for us to budget.
I'm sorry, no ma'am, there's not. We just expect to have those revenues come in. They'll be committed to, but it'll probably be 2 years after that before they actually start coming in the door. So,
We don't usually start collecting until we're almost, because Alexandra's Keep, those proffers were written in what year and
05.
and
I'm sorry,
collected them in,
last
12, something, yeah.
That was my point. If you were to approve the rezoning in the fall, you wouldn't actually start seeing that revenue for probably 18 to 24 months after that. So.
Okay, refuge, expected increase on. What's our contract due on that?
It's a 5-year. It did increase till the 3rd year. This will be the 3rd year. Sorry, July.
Is it going to increase every year?
It's, yeah, well, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th will increase. I think it's 3%.
So the price
6% increase in the budget. Did we also get quantity increase for new houses? Is that why so it's quantity increase plus the contractual price increase.
We need some things from admin employees that should have been there.
We brought all the basically repairs and maintenance services over to maintenance of buildings and grounds as opposed to doing that each.
Why is that? Because we should probably had in the past always divvied it up by admins and or parcel. And I think for budgeting purposes and for tracking purposes, that makes more sense. When you have two buildings at the Harrow property that need different types of repairs and or maintenance items, we should budget accordingly, just like we did when we repaired the post office and the whole house. We didn't put $500,000 in a pot and say, fix something. We put $250 and $150 and then et cetera, et cetera. And it's just like this particular building. I think that we should have this building, that we should have police department building. So I think we need to break that back out. I don't like that. Because it's part of the track on true expenses.
Jennifer, we didn't bill any of the tenants that can charges or earlier.
No, sir.
It's all inclusive.
That's correct.
I think, Jay, just to kind of factor on that, the way we found them is like it was in like the police line item. It'd be okay. I agree with what you're saying. I'd rather almost have it by building itself. That's the reason why we moved them. They were like,
But all under maintenance general, don't put the PD building maintenance.
right. It was just under like the police budget before. Like repairs and maintenance was under the police budget. And like, that's what we wanted to do. We're trying to move it to actual facilities and that funds. But I'm with you on what you're saying. I'm just saying that's where it got moved from. It wasn't under a building. It was actually police.
Well, if we do break it back up, it's where it has to be.
Yeah.
It's under police.
Yeah, it needs to go. It's because the repairs and maintenance to the building that the police department lives in is a cost associated with the police department. The repairs and maintenance to the building that the town staff sits in is part of the town staff budget. The repairs and maintenance to the Hallfish House is part of general grounds and buildings for the Hallfish House property. They need to be, that was my point, is they need to be broken back out the way that they were originally broken back out, because that allows for true cost allocations. And true, when you say, how much does your police department cost you every year? You can look at it and say, well, it costs $957,000 because we have maintenance to this, whatever. Not, well, it's this plus this plus this. Or, I don't know, because all of our maintenance is in one big category. You need true costs of each particular item.
I don't disagree with that. What I was trying to say is if you look over on page 6, we originally had 15026, which is the address for the PD. I was saying, to me, it makes better sense for us to keep those costs there, which we know is the PD building. No?
No, we can't do it like that.
Okay.
Because it goes with the police department. If we're going to break it out, like our admin stuff has to go under town admin.
Gotcha.
What they explained to me when they set up the chart of accounts was this, and we tried to streamline it, thinking it would be better today, but I see if we take it back out, police department expenses has to go under police department, not under an address.
Okay. All right.
The only ones that can go under addresses are the rental properties.
Gotcha.
And that's how it should be, so we know the true cost of every piece of property that we own, or every department that we own. So if we can bring all that stuff back out, for the next work session, that would be helpful. Were there any substantial increases other than, obviously, the food pantry number at the top? Were there any other substantial increases that you find are noteworthy?
The increases, no, but I'm questioning the internet service provider went from an actual of 10,000, budgeted 12,000, we've only spent, and now budgeting for 2,400 with the, why?
Yeah, I'm curious why there's still 2,400 when you guys earlier said that you put all the internet and computer stuff all into each category for the PD.
With the exception of that, we left the provider in there, the actual Comcast bill, the utility bill itself, we left in there. everything else got pulled out.
So that 2,400 is the Comcast bill?
Yes.
But is that really a maintenance of general buildings and grounds? I mean, I think that would be more of an admin cost somewhere.
We can move that back to
Yeah, I
admin.
mean, I think it's more of an admin cost than maintenance.
Sure.
Now, since you said you put everything into one line item under repairs and maintenance, we only budgeted 15,000 total for all of the county buildings?
That was last year.
Last year. No.
Because it says government use and, well, it says food pantry, which I think should say Heritage too, but since we're breaking it back out, it's good anyway. So the total figure from last year's 15,000, is that just for this building and the food pantry?
And that's correct. Last year's, or this current year's.
Everything else is under that.
All right.
It'll be, yeah, when we read this out to you, it'll word it correctly, so it's.
Okay.
Yeah, but for the number that you're shooting with, at 26,000, is that just throw it up in the air and see what's stuck to the wall versus have you actually taken some heavy lifting and made a couple phone calls based on Joe's report?
Well, obviously, the food pantry has a little bit more of an issue figuring we'll probably hopefully get onto that this fiscal year as opposed to next. That $26,000 number was actually a representation of the add-ins that we brought from other line items, so we'll break that back out. They roughly, what we've always looked at this from the standpoint is rather than actual, projects per se, this is more like just general maintenance and upkeep, things that take place through the year. So those were never really, like, what I'd say is large sums of money in the grand scheme of things. It's like, the door falls off the hinges, that's what we use, that'd be the line item, not if we need to go replace it, bring the door, so to speak. So,
There's no factor in that.
yeah.
Thank you, Ken. Sorry.
All right. I just had a quick question about the snow removal budget. I don't think this takes into account yesterday's event. Do we know what the actual year-to-date actuals were for that line item?
Right, 33.
Not counting this year.
I can tell you, we are out here very long. They moved this up pretty quickly. They were out here more than an hour, just
You guys told people that we have a contract and we have other volunteers and peers that come in and take care of it. So we got a deal direct. Yeah.
Yes, and very reasonable.
But, okay, now I'm going to ask the questions. However, the people that have come in to volunteer, wasn't that because our snow hadn't been removed?
It depends which one you're talking about. Yeah, I think it was a misunderstanding from the get-go.
Capital outlay at the bottom page of building repairs, Brian. Year-to-date 25, budgeted 10. Is that going to make more sense when we break it up back up?
I imagine, yes.
And that one stays there.
How would that stay there, Jen?
That's a hard number that she had asked us to keep in there for, and it's bumped up. It started with 10,000 last year. We increased it by 20 for the Hurricane Sandy repairs, and that check should be coming in. But that is supposed to be for the town hall building and the police department building for anything major.
Right, but we're going to break that up between the town hall building and the police department building. Is that what we just talked about?
You want that one too?
Breaking up, yeah, breaking it all. Everything that we can break up and itemize to a particular cost center should, I think, be itemized to a particular cost center.
The reason that was there is more of a holding account. Anything capital, we have to come to you all to spend. At that point, usually we allocate it out. It's kind of, it could be in general reserves for that matter.
Right.
I don't know if you want to break that one so far down, it would almost be nothing per building.
Could you not put capital outlay major building repairs under the reserve category?
I think that might be a better place for it.
Probably move it to reserve. It has to be divvied up by council in the first place.
Okay, so move to general reserves.
My thought.
I agree with that.
All right, going down to rental properties.
Town Hall Suite 110, that?
I haven't factored anything in for any additional repairs to it.
Then why did it go from 300 to 2,000 versus 1,000 if you didn't factor anything else in?
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I think the 2,000 is probably not enough unless the council makes some headway on the proposed. Yeah, unless we're not going to get any rain for the next fiscal year. I think the 2,000 is probably low unless council is planning on funding major repairs to the town center parking lot facility, which I don't think, yeah, well, we do. $500,000, remember?
Well, no, I just meant, I thought you were talking about the Band-Aid, having Holly look at it.
I'm tired of putting a Band-Aid on it. I mean, but I think that, she's hit us before for bills and stuff like that. And I think we need to impose it upon the next council somehow in this budget that the money's here. Let's fix it. Because, quite honestly, I'm tired of driving around back and seeing the same bags that are busted up. The bags that drive around it, et cetera. I'm tired of seeing doors complaining about the flooding because she won't change her front door. We don't have a whole bunch of it. So, well, I don't know. That's a conversation we can have.
Well, technically.
Are we going to facilitate via the budget $250,000, $300,000 in town center property improvements? Because that's, I think 500 is way astronomically high. I could be wrong, but maybe we can't do the exact beautiful color rendition that we were shown in all the drawings that Holly and Marshawn and the committee kind of came up with semi-permeable pavers and whatever, but there's got to be some sort of fix to this property that we can do somehow.
What I would suggest is that you guys could phase out that project too. Sorry, everybody else, I'll let you take it.
First off, we have to look at the fact that, the concept that we did, the design, it has to be engineered first. And then that way we can come up with some type of true cost estimate for what construction would be in order to phase it out. We haven't been able to fund the engineering portion of that yet, which is in the CIP. And we've even broke the engineering up into a 2-year time period in the CIP because our estimated cost simply on engineering this is approximately $100,000. So.
Well, the 2,000 would be an inside, not actually outside.
Correct. Right, but some of those inside repairs are caused by
Outside issues.
outside issues repeated flooding. Every time it floods, potentially have to replace driveway, replace carpet, tile, whatever. Well, it depends. It depends on how bad it floods. I mean, heaven forbid, I know we've asked her before, but heaven forbid, during hurricanes, if you get a hurricane next to you, you got 4 inches standing with water in there. I know that we've had issues in the past with her claiming damages and wanting us to pay certain damages versus renter's insurance and yada. But, you get 4 inches of standing water in there on a Friday night to a Sunday or whatever. Monsoon.
So why don't we go with 5,000 for inside?
Well, we only spent $309 this year. Did we have any for sure at all?
I don't know that any funding actually made it inside her building this time. Did it?
Once or twice,
Just
I
a
think.
little bit.
Yeah, it's like,
But it was just Thomas.
it goes to the middle, yeah.
It was just Thomas
Shop
being
back
able to
in.
go in and
Yeah.
clean it up. It was some minor issues this year, thus far.
So we got lucky so far. But in past years, it's been more significant.
Do you want to Band-Aid or?
Yeah, my big thing is the council needs to stop with the Band-Aid. If we're going to fix it, we're going to fix it. Otherwise, if we're not going to fix it, then.
I'd leave the 2,000 there, and in a different area, we have to do something about the overall outside.
Makes sense to me?
Right.
All right.
It's just
Next feet 200 to sewer?
It was PVD.
It was. Who is it now?
No one right now. We're working with excellent technologies. Yeah, purchase up 2 or 4. They might even need the whole facility. They're waiting around for a contract. But we're still actively marketing. Yeah, we're still there. No other leads so far? No other leads. It's either, it's basically either too big or they're like the use we do. We had a tow company.
How much space is it?
What?
Say 3,400.
It's yeah, we were.
It's going to be partitioned into,
Yeah, I mean, it could be maybe back up.
Yeah, because at one point, Jennifer, how many different tenants did we have upstairs?
Very over time.
Yeah.
So 1,000 is just kind of a little placeholder, like your currency, down.
Right.
Yeah, but if somebody rents it,
Right.
yeah, we're going to factor in a 4-year rental just in case.
No changes to that.
I wouldn't change it.
Suite 204.
And who's that?
That's excellent technology.
That's excellent.
Once again, offices
Those are all
are
tracking with
Yeah.
last year, with this year.
offices are in good shape. I mean, kind of look at these repairs, maintenance services, repairs. And moving over to post office.
I guess that could be 1,000 too. I don't know why that would be consistent. You got me to change that? It's probably our least needy building, you
It's
know?
brand new, repairs are new.
Yeah. All right, I'll fix that.
There is no water and sewer,
No, they have their own meter, so they have their own account.
and they pay it?
They pay. Everybody that's associated here, we're all paying the same way. So all those. That's actually what's removed.
For the whole fish, we also go back to 1,000 on like repairs and maintenance?
Yeah, I would recommend.
Well, we can. The only thing about it is we did find that, I know Marchand has, not putting you on the spot, Marchand, but has mentioned the windows. We had our public works contractors come and do some sealing on the windows to the upstairs on post office. We think we can probably repair it that way. There's also the issue of when we had a frozen water line earlier in the winter, when Scott went back so we could access it, going through the cellar, Colin already noticed there was no insulation in the original portion of the house in the bottom part, which should be. So there are some issues, but like I said, once again, this kind of comes down to the fact that we have any repairs and maintenance. Those are just general repairs, those are actually more projects. So, right, is that where it goes, or do you want it somewhere else?
$500 isn't going to necessarily fix a major insulation problem or
Yeah.
anything, so I put it elsewhere under the more comprehensive. We were talking about before the
Capital reserves and
So make that one 1,000.
Yeah, you can talk about it.
I'm imposing on this one, I apologize. You may notice that we rent the shed of the outbuilding for the whole fish house. On the southern facade, we have boarded up windows. We are charging a fee for that. The door that's on that building is actually an interior door. I was suggesting to Brian that that be incorporated into the budget to actually put windows in the windows and put doors in the doors that are appropriate that can withstand the weather. Otherwise, the buildings are, yes, the windows are boarded up, but they continue to get weather inside them. The windows that I observed was just, there was a couple of windows that were not replaced. They tried to keep the original windows, but the glazing on the glass is coming through. And I think talking to Lisa, who runs the very thing for her, as efficient as we went in and did all the walls. And most of you remember when we went in there, we over-insulated, not over-insulated, but insulated quite extensively. The biggest heat loss now is through the windows. And so I think our maintenance folks have gone in a couple of times and looked at it, but Lisa did mention to me in passing that they're still having an issue with, it's the northern second floor windows where the glazing is coming down, the windows are coming out. So I noticed what they did over here was they simply sealed the windows in place, caulked them, sealed them, kept weather from getting in and out, and that may just be the simple solution from there. But that would be my two recommendations if the council's still looking at is windows, the insulation, and then replacing the windows and doors on the outbuilding. So.
Outbuilding's not heated or anything.
No, but it's open. Even though it's boarded up, it's open to the elements. There's not a window in there. When they separated the two buildings, they put some. They re-sided the side of it, but it's just a piece of plywood that's holding it up. And then the interior door. If that starts to get weathered, there's going to be weather that gets through that interior door that's used as an exterior door. And it's not secured very well. You could easily put your foot on it and open it up. So,
This is a maintenance issue, correct? Yeah, I think any money we have left in maintenance issues is going to go to a specific project. And if it all falls under, and it each thing falls under the funding policy, I mean, quite honestly, we could have done.
So is the 1,500 a good number for that because of the resealing of the windows with potential of adding some?
Well, I think what Rebecca was thinking was she tried to, and David was, I think what David was saying, what Rebecca was alluding to is there are certain things that we can probably get that on this year, but we don't need the budget for next year.
So are we keeping that at 1,500 or, okay, there we go.
And then the repair and maintenance supplies, you have $500 for the old post office, and you have $1,000 for the hall shop.
Okay,
Should those numbers not match? Yeah, they should.
they should match. Let's go 500.
With the exception of property taxes and services.
Why did, no. Why did we have 750? Did we change repair and maintenance on Suite 200 to 500 to match? We have 750 now.
The only thing is, as it's currently stated, it's a much larger facility, but you can change
We
it.
can go 500 on that.
Whether it's town halls we do it.
Yeah. So let's fix that on all these.
How much we've got?
Looks like for now we could go down to 1,000 on the electric.
Who is 14,710?
The old
The old PD building.
That old PD building?
Has there been any interest at all in that building?
Well,
We haven't advertised it yet.
yeah, we haven't advertised.
The interest we have, it's been, unsolicited. We haven't even advertised that.
Well,
At some point in time.
yeah, I
If
think
we think we're going to get somebody in there, we need to have a reasonable level of actually occupying anywhere.
basically with it being a staging area for the construction, it's been hard to market that right now. As soon as the construction is done.
We can market it towards the end of the summer for
Yeah.
a fall entry if, isn't it August or supposed to be?
Yeah, they don't.
Actually, if we were to rent it, then it would be maybe the same consistency with
The electric right there is not ours.
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh,
I think you'd be safe at 1,000.
yeah, then I would concur with that, you're right.
So going electric to 1,000?
Yeah.
The only thing would be probably getting, probably refreshing a little bit.
Well, the gas service is already at 817 this year.
But that would be the same kind of utility that
But we make But we're assuming we haven't rented it, we won't rent it, so that should stay at 1,000, because that's going to be 1,000 next month, too.
Right, yeah.
council members, are you thinking about running that commercially to a private for-profit agency, or?
Would assume so.
We do have
There would have to be waivers and...
Yeah, it would require some effort on the council's part to get someone in there. We typically require, if we're going to move it to a use similar to what we've done in Homefish and the old post office, we would need to do, we would need to take into consideration the development standards that we would apply to every other developer that would come into town. So we can address that at the point we have a tenant.
But we had a tenant already once that we wanted to, and the council didn't want to address those issues at the time.
Okay.
Am I just missing, and I might be missing, where's the other piece of property down there, the other? 14740 or something, so it's not on the budget at all.
No, it was not, never separated out. We had it under maintenance of general buildings and grounds.
So it will be separated out.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you want to change the repair maintenance supply from that one too, to 5?
Yes, I already did.
I understand why there's no real property taxes.
On this one, no, it's still government use vacant or government use has to go.
Because it's PD. Right, so when they be used, they're not actually there. Special events. Did put in under other operating supplies, Christmas tree and any other town-related events. That would cover costs of making sure it's directed properly. Yeah, well, okay, well, planning it, making sure we put it on, that's, yeah.
Either way, time to plant the trees, it's springtime, i.e. not 2015 fiscal year budget.
Gotcha.
I mean, I'm not an arborist. I think there's something nice.
Not in the summer, fall or spring, but I don't know whether evergreen is fall or spring.
Evergreen spring, and it's after the last snow. Generally with evergreens, we're zone 6, 7, so it would be in April to...
We're never going to know when the last snow is.
Yeah.
They're expecting another storm next week? May 20th? I mean, March 20th?
It might be.
No, by gardening standards, Virginia, where we are is a zone 6, planted for any evergreen or greenish foliage or regrowing. It plants in April, May, early April to early May.
So those are right, you start looking for trees.
Yes.
Pardon? No, I think we don't need it. First of all, operating supplies or Christmas trees are a supply. Supply. You bought a load of lights last year. And you bought 2 different color lights.
Epic fail, no.
Yes, you had an epic fail on the color lights.
No, even the year before.
You had LED and incandescent.
And I also have a ton of lights to donate.
Yeah, it says they have to be white. They can't be. No colored lights on the down tree or horse and kid.
Yeah, we have colored light.
All right, moving on to the museum salaries.
That's Denise's part of that.
Do we plan on doing a lot more advertising? I mean, we didn't do hardly anything this year.
Yeah, that's why they went to, well, they cut it half from the budget, but based on the 215. Denise is utilizing Facebook quite a bit, and I think she's trying to use other multimedia sources.
I don't like to keep that in there, but do we, so
I think the idea is I'm trying to encourage you to do
Yeah.
a little bit more, like, especially brochures and
And she's got a train event coming up and a couple other things that she'll probably need to advertise for.
Two lines, so number of
she's averaging chicken. 170. She did have the actuals, you know,
cheaper to put a internet connection in there and use an iWake phone or something like that.
We might be able to start looking at
There's a Magic Jack.
Use a bullhorn. Great service. The police department driving across the street, they should be bullhorn.
Or cell phone.
Or really good web.
Well, let's get another cell phone.
Well, another $600 is better than $2,200.
That is true. And leave it plugged into the wall right here.
Now, wasn't that $82 was actually mileage, so we were going to add the mileage, but that wasn't there, so I think we just need to do that.
Move the 82 into mileage.
Move the 82 in the mileage and then get rid of the
Is that what
miscellaneous.
happened?
So there was no mileage for the museum in last year's budget. That's why I wanted to know miscellaneous. So, do we need to do $500 for mileage?
No.
No, it's 100, it's 100, 500.
So, yeah, what do we need a miscellaneous for?
You need to zero that, you want me to zero that?
Yeah.
Well, we might need a miscellaneous, I'm just trying to...
Well, everything else seems to be covered though. I mean, there's the museum's got a grand, you know.
Like, you can always leave one line item, but zero it out. I mean,
I said just zero it out.
I say just zero it out.
signs too, like, or something like that. Right, to see things like that.
That could be
Advertising.
Advertising.
Office supply, either one.
What was the $82 that was
Mileage.
spent? That was
We didn't have a mileage line item last year.
Let's
You missed
figure it
that.
out.
Is eliminated.
that will come back in because.
Yes.
Yeah, that will come back in.
That'll be part of the factory impact.
Okay.
$30,000 for working something?
Is that a pretty firm price, or is that fairly adjusted?
So, despite what you might read in the media, we're starting to see a boom in the town again. I've been working here probably for about 3 to 4 years now. And one of the several challenges I've had in terms of folks looking at redeveloping the town is parking, the sign ordinance, and the subdivision ordinance. We do not have what they call a facility standards manual. We're typically deferring to Prince William County in terms of our standards. I think what has happened is a small town, we have used the volunteers that we've been able to engage. And what we've really had happen is kind of a hodgepodge and a patchwork of amendments to our zoning ordinance. So what the consultant fee would do is, I would be the first one to admit this is not, my position is not a full-time job, but what having the right tools in my hand makes me more efficient. What we've been doing inside, we're working with Sherry and Jen to come up with some self-serve products. If you want to get a sign, if you want to be a new business, things that don't require me to answer an email or require Jen or Sherry to answer an email. But the tools that are most problematic right now are, again, the parking ordinance, which we did get in 4 proposals for the parking study. The next would be the sign ordinance. And then from there, we would go into, I think, a full review of both our subdivision ordinance and our zoning ordinance. Consultants, it's like a consultant on call where you set up kind of a work plan. What I would suggest is over the next several years, kind of hit those major topics, go from the parking to signage, and then go to the other documents, with the end game being that within the next 4 years, all your documents are updated, they're most current, they're business friendly, they preserve or they match what our vision is in the comprehensive plan, and then it makes our job easier to do over time. And again, the expectation is that would come off in the next 2 to 3 years, and then you would not have to spend any more on those tools. They should last us for quite a while.
You're anticipating $30,000 a year for 2 to 3 to 4 years?
I would say 3 to 4 years. We can do it at a more aggressive schedule, but that's again hitting kind of the down the line. Parking and signage are the 2 I hear most about as problematic. And then the follow-on would be looking at our ordinance holistically. We have uses that are mixed-matched between districts. We have standards that are mixed-matched between districts. We have other things that have just been a function of us trying to do Band-Aid work over time, which isn't a bad thing. It was just a function of the town being a volunteer staff for so long. So 30,000 is an estimate that I made along with Brian. We looked into folks that we know in the industry that provide these services. City of Manassas is undergoing a similar exercise. Dumfries is going under a similar exercise where they're using these on-call consultants to go ahead and update these ordinances. It would be a competitive process, whichever group did get those contracts. But again, it's a tool that we have to try to update our ordinances as expeditiously as possible.
And also the way that these on-call consultants are working, we budgeted. Let's just say hypothetically, we budget 30,000. That's when they're working with you. They're going to give us that much product. And if
Not to exceed.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things. What I'm getting at is like if we can do parking orders for 15,000, we could do sign orders for 15,000. We'd have additional 15,000 to use for us to go get started on the next thing.
But to your point, yes, it would be a specific scope of work, specific deliverables, and not to exceed 30,000, and that's the bids we would be getting back, is can we meet within that? And that's the estimate we wanted to start with.
What do you think you can do for 30,000? For example, parking signs.
I don't know if we just opened the bids, I don't know if we can really kind of explain it to that detail right now since we haven't picked a company. Can we?
We said, in the RFP, we said come in at $15,000.
No, we
Actually,
don't.
it didn't say that.
It didn't say in the RFP that was not to exceed? Okay, well, that's embarrassing. I apologize. I
We
thought
said
we'd
it
given
in
a catch.
discussions and it just got lost. It wasn't part of the motion.
It's a catch-22. You put it in exactly that amount. If you don't put it in, it might catch.
It was an estimate that I had generated based on now these are larger organizations. I guess the concern is they don't have to spend to that. You have to be careful given that budget and they're going to spend to that limit. So be very specific in doing that. We may get a better idea once we look through the RFPs that came in for the parking ordinance.
What the deal is we might be able to get a couple of things done this
Correct.
next year.
I would call that the low-hanging fruit. Things that would have the most bang for your buck, again, is the parking and the sign ordinance. So.
All right. How many meetings are we budgeting for? We're doing 2.5 a month for us. Typically, they maybe 2 a month?
Planning commission typically is only one very rarely. I mean, they get one or two joint public hearings with us.
Yes.
That's about it.
So you're probably looking at
Probably
15.
1.5 a month there.
What's the
I mean, the number's good. I mean, the year to date, it's only 23. Over 5,000 is a good number.
all right.
What is the $750 for books, dues, and subscriptions for the planning commission?
PC materials.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious again. We've never budgeted for this before. What are those?
This is actually a recommendation. I think you'd be to the planning commissions, and it wouldn't be that much, but have more access to materials for not just continuing ed. I think also could be members of like the Space and Planning Association of Plan Virginia, which is specifically for, it's like a $25 one.
I was going to say, we were just at a nice banquet for them on Friday, and their membership was not $700.
No, Plan Virginia.
That was one of the sponsors of the. It was one of the sponsors was Planning Virginia and whatever Northern Virginia planning on. I read the brochure.
Well, anyway, no, it wouldn't just be that. That would be one of those things I think it would benefit from having connections to other planning commissions. You can lower it. I mean, you can take it out. It's just, they've never had that option. No, they didn't request it. It's more of a recommendation than anything. They've never had the option to it. I think one of the things I think the town, as Marshawn has put it, is growing. I think getting your planning commissioners to certified planning commission lower it. Like I said, it's a recommendation, but you've never had the option to. I think there's materials out there that could be beneficial to the planning commissioners.
We've done the same with the ARB,
Same with the ARB.
and the ARB costs less.
Well, ARB, you can actually get,
Not a selectman discount.
No, it's just a question. Yeah, no, it's
I
just a question.
couldn't think of, admittedly, I knew a little more about what's out there, but not
Right.
So, I don't know the organizations.
I'm not going to be on in a couple of months.
Oh, you don't know that.
So the thought
Maybe
is,
punish you.
take it down, leave it the same.
Why don't the
Why is planning
liaison,
commission?
why don't
Mention the
the,
liaison?
why don't
Every
the
commission?
liaisons to both kind of run it up the flagpole to the committees and the board and see their thought process on it?
Yeah, if you can give me more of a definition of what the materials, dues, and subscriptions would go to for, say, my ARB, we're meeting tomorrow. That way I can then bring it up tomorrow.
Same for PC.
I would hold my comments. What's that? Dues and subscriptions, they are even like.
ARB, 37 is supposed to be in. Wouldn't not be the same?
No, because ARB doesn't do public hearings and planning commission does. That's why there's a difference in increasing.
It's been scheduled and such.
That's a pretty set number.
All right. Moving on. Services. You approve of taking that.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get that down, but we don't have a hard proposal yet. It's complicated, I don't get everything.
We do have a meeting with VML.
By reducing interest rates.
Yeah, but it's a little bit, they want a lot of information before it gets approved, so.
We do,
Who are you working with on that, by the way?
I think our best bet is to Virginia, but with VML and DRA.
we're,
So
we got
I'm
a meeting
also getting
scheduled with
quotes
VML.
on all banks too. But I have to get Virginia agencies. So they're used to doing it, and I hope we pull for that.
Do we have an ETA on when we might have some further numbers to look at for budgeting purposes?
What do you think the turnaround will be once we get the information? They want mostly relations, forms, and all this stuff.
If I'm not mistaken, bond referendums will have to go through a public hearing at least.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep.
So I don't foresee this being a fiscal year turnaround anyway, unless council started it now, which is not going to happen.
Okay. We're still trying to.
David, I don't know if you've seen the structure of our debt, but a lot of our debts are pretty comfortable, more than equitable rates. Some of it is a switch high, all of it is not that pretty.
Tell me when it stuck out, that one that last year was 6% or 5%. It was about $200,000. It's with a bank. What I thought was, can we get another bank that give us 2 or 3%?
Yeah, and there was a reason for that, because that was one that wasn't tax deductible.
Right. There's different structure to all of it that we have. Some of it is tax advantage, some of it's not, some of it's municipal rated, some of it's local rated. So there's a big structure that we can being ready to the time and kind of work on it all the time. Best way to get rid of most of that service is sell their own property.
Okay. Washington Street enhancement.
Those are just hard numbers for Molly.
But that hard number is based on expected billings July, August, and September only.
Yeah, it's based on the schedule, the scope of work in the schedule.
Through July,
Through July.
June.
No, the 752 would be next year, July, August, September's expenses.
Yeah, through June.
June of the following year. but-
June of following year, but the project ends
FY
in.
15, I think.
Yeah, I understand that fiscal year contract, but there are no real expenses slated. The street gate, that phase is slated to be over with
That's right.
in September, October, depending upon what hours So if they don't meet the deadline, they're gonna wind up, if I remember the contract correctly, they're gonna wind up over this. They're gonna be penalized.
Holly did a detailed calculation.
Well, no, Holly, if you listen to Holly every time that she stands up and talks to us, they built in expected weather delays.
I meant the billing.
No, the billing is on the schedule that they're gonna bill us on. It's- The reimbursements are, and the first set of reimbursements came in rather quickly, or rather, not quickly, rather much faster than the previous. I was just making sure that that was a hard number for the expected 2.5 to 3 months worth of the project that are left.
Yes, sir.
And then the question then remains, do you start going towards the next phase?
Well, they're going to bill us a lot.
We have that working with the CIP, so we can make it numbers and how much every number is. But if I'm not mistaken, that doesn't actually start until
Looks like it's 1.4 construction. Bill us between
but it hasn't been, the final days haven't been in.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of buildings that haven't been out there.
Yes.
We've already submitted a lot of them.
Becky said we are going to add the line item about the third phase.
Yes,
final
okay,
phase.
1B, would like you to do 1B block. But it hasn't been engineered yet, so that's step 1 and then step 2. But no, that'll be in the CIP, the PC.
That's that meal sack, and I go everywhere it comes out. That was projected, right, in Europe. I allowed that in for you,
Hey,
guys.
I was actually trying to make eye contact.
You locked it in, it wasn't even a direct bullet.
And, town center master plan.
Back to the caboose.
It's chugging along.
Isn't that the engine? Not the caboose?
Is that project that, we talked about that the other day, and that's not gonna happen anytime?
Our ad date is August, it's
Yeah.
definitely FY15 for
Right.
construction.
Okay. But that's all grant, right?
80% of it, yes.
Town center master plan.
Here we go, 100,000.
Should.
Mr. Mayor, I overheard some of the conversation earlier. I apologize. When talking with the consultants, most of the monies would go into stormwater and paving. A lot of the aesthetics, the building facades that will be redone, those are nominal compared to what the bulk of the cost is going to be. Whatever the grading is, whatever the stormwater system that would have to tie in to the street system, those all tend to add up very quickly, and that would be the biggest part of the total cost. What's that?
This is engineering alone.
Correct. So, I'm a planner. I do like the niceties, but the bulk of that will come from site development. So.
And that originally we had slated last year $50,000 for it, but when consultants who did the master plan for you, they had stopped by to just kind of get an update. And he said that when we get the engineering, they probably would be closer to the He even said a number for that, but I said.
Now, there is the ability to apply for grants and other monies to help offset that cost.
Yes.
Correct. You have to, it's kind of the cart before the egg. You have to have a value in hand before you go and petition these groups or solicit these groups to get those monies. So you kind of have to put some money in on the front end to get the money back on the back end. So.
You don't have to do the work, but you have to do enough to know what the work's going to cost.
Yes, sir.
That's why in the CIP, you'll see the engineering go from 2 years. So there is some money we'll have to put out, but hopefully some of that money can be used to help staff, applying for grants, to pay for the engineering.
Well, how much do you guys want to try to fund it? Because quite frankly, I'm sorry, Joe,
No, I was just going to ask how much Marshawn thought the cost would be to do some kind of a preliminary estimate. Is it some percentage based on this number?
would be about preliminary estimate. Well, the actual construction cost?
Yeah, we originally estimated 500.
Yeah, 500 on that.
And they thought 3 to 320 bulk of that would be stormwater. 100 was about what we had looked at engineering fees alone, just for the project. So Holly, I can ask Holly to do a rougher estimate on that.
So the question is, does, back to the whole conversation from earlier, with maintenance of rental properties, et cetera, i.e. divorces, how much of that does this council want to try to handcuff the next council into? Because there's, flip this over, and even though we've cut some numbers, et cetera, we're coming up with a deficit of whatever the real number is now, 55,000, 52,000, whatever the number is. Huh?
69.
We went up. Oh, yeah, because we had people 20,000. So, I mean, the rest of these numbers, you know, there's only two numbers left, the 90,000 and the 100,000. That doesn't give us any kind of general reserve funds at all. But I think the town center master plan is a big thing. Regardless of who's been talking on the internet or whatever, you know, it is something that we've all talked about, the facade and the property here, and how much do we pick on our neighbor before we fix ourselves up. And, you know, we did a good job, this council wanted to fix up the two properties. So now we need to continue that momentum. So if you don't fund any kind of improvements, then it's going to be hard to continue that momentum. That being said, we need to go back and revisit some of your revenue projections. And are there areas, hence why we didn't suggest you cut this tax. Sure. You're okay? Okay. I like you, you get it right.
Last year, you'd had me do an estimate on what I anticipated for development fees.
Yes, sir. I asked for the same thing last week. I don't know if Brian relayed that to you or not.
He did. I just haven't had a chance to put it together yet. But we also wanted to revisit the fee schedule.
Correct.
And that would hopefully identify additional revenue streams. So I will have those numbers before the next budget meeting. So.
Are they anywhere near 190,000?
No, 16.
No, but
One thing I would remind you guys, I'm sorry, Jay, go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
Well, I was going to say,
I like you too. You get it right.
listen, you do have monies coming back in from the back half of your enhancement project because we fronted the portion of that tunnel, so you do have monies coming in from that, and that's going to hopefully bolster your reserves back up. But you could tap into those and not completely deplete your reserve at the same time while going out for grants.
That was part B of what I was going to say on the revenue side, is you need to get a number estimate from Holly closer to when we have to go live with our budget, broadcast, and advertising to find out how much of our expenditures for the Streetscape project we expect to recoup in fiscal year 2015 in the July and August months, and how much of that would actually be carried forward via the auditors in fiscal year 15.
But one of the revenue sources that I think we need to re-examine is the cigarette tax.
the sin tax.
The cigarette tax has been going, the revenue's been going down for a number of different reasons. A, we've lost sales to competitors across the street somewhat. Obviously, people have quit smoking. Some people have started buying their cigarettes elsewhere, et cetera. That has always been a pretty good contributor, and we've chopped it by 20% this year. So we've got, from what Jen has told me, our cigarette tax is fairly low compared to other jurisdictions. And I would suggest that we probably should increase it. It is a tax that, for the most part, is easy to swallow by most residents because it's a tax that the residents don't have to pay, unlike a property tax or unlike a car registration tax or unlike a trash collection tax or whatever. It's a tax that is largely imposed upon people who are traveling through the town. And I think we're at 50 cents a pack now.
Yep.
Quite honestly.
Do we know what an average around here is?
First one.
First one doesn't have a cigarette tax percent.
Or no.
I would honestly suggest double. I would suggest double to $1 a pack. You tack on another $100,000. Actually, you double that, right? You tack on $200,000. And I would love, I do like you, but I'm not going to let you interrupt me. I would say don't increase it incrementally, increase it hard, because if you increase it incrementally, you're going to lose a little bit, you're not going to gain what you're trying to gain. You're trying to gain revenue. So increase it by 50 cents, double the tax. Those that continue to smoke will make up for those that either quit smoking or buy their cigarettes elsewhere. But that way we can at least budget for a significant increase in the revenue, fund our shortfalls for the time being, and also get the real number for streetscape contributions that are going to be coming in the fiscal year that we can collect in 2015. But I would suggest doubling that tax.
You don't think that would make sales fall?
I think it would make sales fall to some extent, but I think that the overall volume of the tax collected would make up for the loss of sales. In other words, if you increased it by 25 cents and you lost 20% of your cigarette smokers, you're not getting the same revenue that if you increase it by $1 and you lost 20. So you increase it higher and you lose a little bit, you're still gaining a larger percentage overall. So again, I think it's a tax that it's not necessarily hitting the residents. It's a tax that we, quite honestly, there's two ways to look at it. You can publicize it however you want to publicize it. Yeah, we raised the tax because now we're part of this safe whatever initiative thing.
HEAL, there you
right.
go.
You took credit for HEAL, which I don't see you walking up to town council meetings, but that's okay. It's part of the HEAL program. We want to discourage people from smoking. So yes, we raised the tax. Call it a sin tax. Call it whatever. I think there's ways to publicly spin that positively, or there's ways just to spin it exactly how it is. We've taken a decrease in the revenue. We've got some expenses we need to cover with some major facade and major property improvements that we need to fund. And this was the less taxing way to do it to our residents. Because quite frankly, I don't care about the person in Fauquier County who stops here and buys cigarettes on the way to work. I care about the person who lives at Greenhill Crossing who has to look at our crappy parking lot every day when they drive past here to go to work. So I would wholeheartedly be in support of raising that to at least $1, which would change that to $400,000, which would take care of the deficit for now. And then we can go look at other things to bring in. We'll bring in a couple more expenses because I got expense cut options too.
I have just a question on, is there any revenue that's expected for the Haymarket Village for fiscal year 2015?
Which one?
The one that's going to be in
No, that'll be under
2015?
construction.
Okay.
I think other projects we can look at. Sheets has submitted their application. They obviously see value in rebuilding. That may increase revenues from their establishment. Chick-fil-A, I expect to have their resubmission in there soon. They expect to break ground by next fall, so probably optimistically, we probably won't see revenue till end of 2015, early 2016. So, but we do have those. We also have the second rink of ice that I expect to go to construction this fall, which will hopefully bring additional folks into town. But most of the projects, the redevelopment project across the street and like the firehouse, we're not going to see revenue from that in the next year or so.
What is the process of raising the tax?
I'm going to defer to Jim, but I think it's just a matter of banging the gavel until it's done. I think you probably need to have a public hearing on it just to be nice, but I don't even know that that's required.
Public hearing is required, but it's part of the budget and tax rates in support of the budget. It's all one hearing.
Yeah, that's an easy one.
Do you have a question, Bruce?
No, I would just.
Okay.
Why I think that we got a $200,000 shortfall, $190,000 shortfall.
And made it up on one line.
Then we can make it up. Well, that's just that part of the shortfall, but then you haven't yet to fund any construction for the actual side of the town hall. You won't be talking about how to build it.
Correct. Because there won't be any construction.
What I'm saying is there possibly could be.
Well, yeah, that's true.
And I think you need to go ahead and start planning to pay for it. Quite honestly, I tacked another $1 or rather penny onto the meal tax, using almost the same argument. But I know those of you running for election will never support it.
I'm not running for election.
But we've got to look at our revenue sources, and I think the easiest one to swallow, which is the one that I brought up. And I'm not going to sit here and try to talk about moving based on why they increase the meal tax, but the cigarette tax, I think, is a no-brainer. And I think that we've got a very low tax based on the research that Jim has provided. And again, if we wind up losing volume because we've increased the tax, we're still going to at least make the same revenue, if not more. And if we make 50 people quit smoking, then you've done what you wanted to do with your HEAL initiative. You could put that into the newspaper articles in 2016.
Do you really want to go to 400?
Yeah, if you double the tax, you double the revenue. If you double the tax.
350 people, so here's close up.
I'm thinking it was a lot. I think you'll be surprised.
I don't think you're going to double it.
No, I don't read it. All right, so push it to 350 then. Raise the tax by 50 cents and put it to 350. They cut your loss. Raise the tax.
Raise the tax per dollar. I agree with that completely.
Make the tax make the revenue 350.
The lesser of all the evils. That's right.
Well, that's just one, still a revenue that we have to, not revenue.
Okay, so we're going to do this.
That puts us at 80.
That puts us a positive in 80.
Yes, sir.
Right. Which I still don't think is enough to start to fund any kind of construction.
I have a recommendation.
I'll listen.
The cruiser, the police cruiser, that we have a debt service of $22,000. We button down the hatches and we pay that off this fiscal year. You can remember that next year's budget.
Is there room in this year's expenditures to cover that?
Well, you also got cash on hand. Yeah, I'd have to take a harder look at the numbers, but I think we can probably make that happen.
We got them all for paying off the debt early. I want to pay cash for the car in the first place.
We budgeted $22,000. I think the payoff's $23,000.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to burn your eyes out. Dave was like, what? Say that. I was waiting for you to, I was like, did Dave just type that stuff? Yeah. Here's the inside between me and David.
I know it.
Well, anything we can do to
It's going to be paid off in FY15 anyway.
this year and save the money for that would make sense.
Well, it's only financed for 3 years anyway, so it would be paid like Jen said, it's going to be paid off next year or this year.
As long as it's a year.
Yeah, but if you can save the $22,000 and apply it towards other expensive categories, you're up to 102,000.
So I'm sure Sherry can get you paid off in the morning and Renee can take a hard look at the budget. Brian.
We'll step the next one.
Mark, when do you think you'll be able to get better guesstimates on revenue fees generated
By next Wednesday.
that quickly? You want more time?
Well, the fee schedule is going to take longer, but I can.
Over in Loudoun County, you can answer.
I actually had to get permission from my boss at Loudon to work for the town.
What do you know?
So,
I've got to look at everything. It's a lot cheaper than what you're proposing.
let me just lose my train of thought. Estimated revenues I can do by next Wednesday. The fee schedule is going to take longer to put together. We're also going to have to advertise that fee schedule. But yes, I can take an estimate and have it ready for you next week.
Look at the CIP for you to the finalization.
Right, but we probably want to know what kind of, if we can iron down some more revenue and take a harder look at some of the expense categories, we can send you back to the planning commission for your April 14th meeting with the real numbers and you can itemize. So we have a work session on Tuesday, the 25th at 7.
What day of the week?
How about taking Wednesday off?
I thought we had a work session on the first day of April.
Oh, yeah, it is the first.
Why is it the 1st of April?
Because
Tuesday.
Oh, it's like Tuesday before the first meeting?
April Fool's Day. How ironic.
Good thing we'll all be here.
Tuesday, April 5th is just normal.
So Wednesday, the 26th? I mean, are we going to have enough changes? Is everybody going to, I mean, Josh was the only one that I know that nailed any questions. in the last week.
Yeah, and
I had a lot of them. I knew Brian got.
Yeah, Brian has most of them, so I was, or all of them, so I was able to.
Somebody else responded.
Jennifer Taylor, she responded first.
Gave them all the credit.
And correct me on the .com/.org issue.
You should have seen the draft reply that I replied to you, but I didn't send it. So, I mean, the 26th or 27th, the next week, that gives us, Wednesday's the 26th, Thursday's the 27th. Take 7 days to let everybody.
26, Wednesday.
I would say, honestly, everybody needs to take a real hard look and try to find some more money, because I really want this council to try to fund real improvements to the town center property. Even if it's not completely redoing the facade, you know, another facade, like the parking lot and the semi-programmable pavers or whatever. I'd really like to see us try to fund the beginning of that project. Well, the pretty looking thing was $500,000 on the high end. You know, I would honestly say we need to probably find 300, 350 if we want to try to really do it.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think our best bet here is if we can get to 250, and we might get 200 right now, if we can get to 250.
We're 100 right now.
Well, with the extra 100 we're talking about, we're at 100 for engineering, we have another potential 100,000 that would identify if we can get to 250. Then we have a 2-year plan, because if we have 250 this year, we're going to have about 250 next year, in the same bucket. And we can do this so that it flows into next year and uses both fiscal years and get the 500K that way.
Right, but now you're postponing any actual work on the project by another 3
No,
years.
he's not. He's just coming up to try to work for as much as
Well, we can start the work in this fiscal year,
Okay.
but finish it in the
I see what
next
you're saying.
one, so that we split the
I
costs.
see what you're saying.
Makes more sense.
And we have 250 this year.
I was just trying to get David something to put in the newspaper next year. You know, it's supposed to get me to accomplish.
All right, well, if we can all look for revenues, the planning commission can, you know.
Revenue and cutting expenses.
Construction, a year on that.
Revenue / cutting expenses. There's a lot of, there's still some cutting that can be done to make that kind of thing, in my opinion.
So we're
Y'all may
meeting
not like
Wednesday?
So I guess it's studying that we are going to do a 0.3K payout on a car for fiscal year 14.
If our staff gotten some money for us to do it this year, it certainly makes sense to me as somebody on this living council, because of what I'm trying to set the next council up for, which is success, not failure.
So we're trying to.
I mean, I'll look at the numbers and assume that that's a possibility.
Yeah, well, I would assume that's probably going to happen.
Are we doing it at 7 on Wednesday?
Because we've saved so much money in salaries this year. We've got the money because we saved so much in salaries the last 2 months.
Okay, so 7 o'clock Wednesday.
Yep.
Wednesday the 20,
Wednesday the 26th.
26.
Marshawn, you said next week, but how quickly do you think you could honestly get? Can you have an email to us on Monday night?
yes.
Now, you said you wouldn't have another
The actual fees.
Right, what I did last year is basically,
some guesstimates on fees, just a ballpark.
well, I can. What has happened before is we've done a lot of pass-through fees. They've been somewhat hard to capture. What I can do with the fee schedule is simply work with Brian and Jen to understand, and Sherry, what are our average, how long does it take me to get through a rezoning? How long does it take Holly to get through a rezoning? How long typically do we have a review by the attorney? I even one time went so far as to estimate postage it would take when we used to have to mail out packets. So we can put that together with some certainty. Now, I think you got to be realistic. Most development fees, you're not going to capture 100%. There's some expectation that you're paying in your taxes that you're going to get some basic services in terms of permits, review, and things like that. To answer your question, probably less than a month we could get a new fee schedule together for you. The estimated revenue on new applications, I simply look at what I am tracking and what I expect to have submitted within the next 12 to 14 months.
I would expect this to be a significant revenue, and this to be probably fairly minor.
Well, if you look at
Capture fees or recapture the money we're spending, that should be recovered.
I think right now, yeah, I'm sorry, yes, I agree with you. I mean, right now, we're looking at 23 is what we had estimated for permits and fees. We're at 26 right now. We'll probably get up to about, we just had a $4,000 check come in, so we're probably looking at about 30. And I think we'll probably do that and more. But, yeah, I can work on those numbers for you. I'm sorry, did I answer your question? I kind of rambled.
Yeah, I don't think this is something that we're going to anticipate having a major impact.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it'll be pennies. It'll be less than probably $10,000.
Yeah, but what it does for us is recoup money that we should be recouping and not just giving it away.
Yes, sir.
Well, on that note, Marshall, we're looking, Jen, on the calendar, it looks like our drop dead to have a budget to advertise is probably May 19th. So do you think you could have a revised fee schedule to council?
To advertise concurrently?
Well, if the council's going to consider adopting a new fee schedule to go forward, and we want to adopt it by, well, we either want to adopt it on June 2nd or May 5th. So if we're going to advertise a new fee schedule for a public hearing, you have to have it done by third week of April. Third or fourth week of April to make a deadline. You have to work with Jen for the exact dates. Okay. If we're going to try to adopt this and incorporate that extra $10,000 or $5,000 or $9,000 for the next year's revenue side, we want to be able to incorporate it in the budget, which means the council would have to want to adopt it. I mean, we could adopt it in June, but our advertising deadline would be roughly May 19th for the budget. So,
Let me talk with Jen, understand the deadlines. I can.
just give us an idea.
Yes, sir. On the 26th, I'll have an answer for you.
Have a wonderful day.